So yeah, in relation to the Arsenal stuff, people, let's look at Mikel Arteta. Apparently, Arteta will likely be given funds, so to speak, or wages to bring someone on loan. But it sounds from what we're hearing from within that it will not be able to bring in anyone permanently. This is reported by Sky Sports News. Now, for me, small hope is that how much do Sky Sports and that know beyond the whispers they're being told allegedly. You'd like to think the club are making movements because a blind man could see we needed a centre half long term, we need a central mid. There's other positions you can tweak, but in the short medium term, Arteta needs certain players of a certain standard to be able to help with. Listen, from when we started the season and we looked a bit shaky to the period where it became clear that Emre wanted to leave, from the moment the board sat there and said Emre's going to be sacked, scouting teams, the board and whatever, there should have been drawing up targets in the short, medium and long term. Who are we bringing in? What box-to-box midfielder? What creative midfielder? What centre-half are we going for? What other areas? Arteta, obviously I'm not saying Arteta was the manager or to be the manager at this point, but he's very much a head coach. Obviously, Arteta should be able to sign his own players, have a hand in players, bring in players that he specifically wanted. But by the same token, if you do your due diligence correctly, you source the sort of player that you believe can improve us properly to a proper standard, and there's a real strategy to our scouting, then it shouldn't be rocket science as to who he plays. It's not rocket science. He wasn't here when Torreira was signed. Allegedly, that's a Mislintat signing. He's playing Torreira. It's magical that he's playing Torreira in his actual role after previous managers. But do you see it doesn't matter that he's asked for Torreira or not. There was proper due diligence done to a player that can help this squad move forward to a degree. So that needs to be done. If we can utilise the loan market, I don't mind that. But what loans realistically can you get beyond basement bargains? You're looking at Jerome Boateng, which Bayern Munich have categorically, for example, said he's not involved. Like, forget that, rub that out sort of thing, people. So what loans can you get? Beyond, like, we can sit here and look at players' situations in the league and away from the league in Europe and say, can there be things done? Unless it's a loan with an option to buy sort of thing where you're technically buying the player and paying later. Out and out loans, I don't know what can happen. I mean, Christensen divides opinion, and I'm a bit, I wouldn't mind him at Arsenal if we had to bring in a centre half. But you've heard Lampard, for example, reject AC Milan. I'm not saying he's the man, but I'm just looking at a player's situation where he's not had much football and thinking, can we get him on loan, for example? It's players that are not necessarily inspiring for us, people. So hopefully I think a move can be done. And even if it's loans, I don't mind the loan things. But if we look on our last loan moves, I was happy with the signing of Ceballos. But in hindsight, was there more due diligence we could have done? Because right now that's 4.5 million down the drain. Danny Ceballos, apparently Emre wanted him, he barely played him, he was barely fit from even our interest was registered in him. That was 5 million. So you're looking at about 9 million on two loans that were duds. If we have to watch pennies as much as more than other clubs, are we doing our due diligence? Because why was that signed? Do you get it? So I don't mind loan signings if people are going to do things correctly. Apparently, RMC are saying that Atlanta had a €30 million bid for the 21-year-old midfielder Yusuf Fofana, rejected by Salzburg. I really like him and Sissoko of Salzburg as well. Both play in midfield, and I think they're not the finished articles. They're still raw, but considering their profiles and what they offer to teams, and that they're not the finished product, so we won't necessarily face the fiercest of oppositions for him. That's so for the pair. That should be an avenue we personally go down, in my opinion, personally, people. Obviously, against Chelsea tomorrow, Lacazette has the opportunity to end almost going a year without an away goal in the league. It would be lovely if he could do that tomorrow. And a player like Lacazette to have the problems he's facing in terms of converting goals anyways is a concern. But to almost go a year without converting is a bit, for someone like Lacazette, it's a bit mad. And if I was Lacazette with the form I've been in personally this season, people, seeing that, if I came across it on social media, it would somewhat be a kick in the teeth, more or less, people. Moving away from that, we might as well quickly see if there's any more Arsenal business or Arsenal transfers, because the last I saw is that Lyon apparently put in a bid for Bruno Guimaraes and it was swiftly rejected. Now, we've been linked with a move for the Brazilian midfielder for a while. I've also heard Arteta kind of talking up the chances if we don't bring anyone in. I'm not gonna... Hold on, people. No. They gotta be running bants. No disrespect to these players, because Sheffield are a good team, but Peter O'Rourke, the journalist, has said Arsenal have set their sights on signing Sheffield United duo John Fleck and George Bardock ahead of the summer window. An Arsenal source has told us that Arteta has been hugely impressed by the duo's performances in the 1-1 draw on Saturday. Now, no disrespect to any of them, because they both walk in our team on current form. They're not really the names we should be signing, people. Wasn't John Fleck formerly a young player people thought was going to go on to do great things? I could be wrong. If we're going to get anyone Scottish, it's got to be John McGinn of Aston Villa for me, people. I wouldn't mind John Fleck really, because he's what he might lack in technical ability. We've had players at this team that are wonderfully gifted crossing balls and things like that, and can do everything with a ball at their feet. But in terms of being consistent and being able to rely on them over 90 minutes over a course of a season, they haven't had that. John Fleck is of a different mentality. Look at them Sheffield United players. A lot of them, not a lot were billed as any he was, but he's faced a lot of adversity. A lot of them have had to come up through the leagues the hard way. I've had to be in the Championship, League One, and all of these things. I've had to, none of them have had a silver spoon in the footballing sense. And so that's what I like about them. They're very honest, they're very consistent, they're very hard working, and they don't want the Premier League for them to end, so they play like that. And John Fleck is off that, and to be honest, he's faced a lot of adversity after, being hyped up at the age of 16 and being 28 and not being anywhere in his whole life. He's had a good career, he's playing Premier League football, but certain people might use that as a stick to potentially unfairly beat him with. And I believe someone like him, he might lack ability, he might not be inspiring, and I might not necessarily be behind his signing, but at least someone like him would grab the chance at being at Arsenal with two hands, and he actually has got some technical ability. Bardock, I don't mind, as funny as it is really being linked with certain players like this. Sheffield, more players walk in our squad than theirs on current form. But in terms of longevity, inspiration, it's not really teams to get behind. But on current form, why not? I was more thinking January if we had to get someone to do a job right now, because long term I'm not too sure that's really one to get behind, but he might not cost the most, so who knows, people. Let's go and see how old he is. He's 26. To be fair, he's alright. He's alright, and if we're not going to play Maitland-Niles at fullback anymore, he's someone that can do a job there. He's not dead. He's actually not dead. It all depends how much they cost, people, because I'm sure they would relish the chance to join Arsenal regardless of where we've been, but it will be a difficult decision, and I'm sure they'd want to ride the Sheffield United journey until it gets locked off, because they've been alright. It all depends how much they can cost, and we need people that can plug gaps in the side. Fleck's contract expires in 2021, Bardock expires in 2022, so a lot of this could just be nonsense and could just be pure paper talk, people, really and truly. And could just be things designed to, they could want to sign deals, people are putting things out into the feelers. It's a bit irrelevant, but apparently the PSG sporting director admitted that Cavani has handed in a transfer request, people. So he's offered, he spoke about him, and he also spoke about Kazawa. He's saying Arsenal have never called us, we have nothing, which follows on from what Tuchel is saying. What's actually happened and what they're saying is going to happen, or what has happened, are obviously two different things, people. Cavani's handed in a transfer request, which the relevance of that basically could be, could force through his move to Atletico Madrid in the January window rather than the summer, and that might either help us. That might either help them get Lacazette, make them want Lacazette even more to partner with Cavani, or make them, leave Lacazette alone. And for Lacazette and his inconsistent form, he's consistently been linked with Atletico. Apparently they're going back for him in the summer, from what reports say. Don't know if current form warrants that. And they're a Champions League club, so he might want to relish that. So we'll have to see how that one develops. Personally, I think that one's going to go away, if anything. It is a bit concerning for me that we haven't really signed anyone, and it's the 20th of January, because a blind man could see that the first week of January a couple players needed to roll in at Arsenal very quickly. But fingers crossed, people, really and truly. So yeah, on that note, I don't think I've really got anything else to add, people, so I'm gonna keep it